All right. Let's dive into something that's been, well, it feels like it's been buzzing on everyone's feed lately, biohacking.
Hmm.
Kind of sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, though, right? Like, are we all going to be part cyborg, living to 200?
Well, not quite yet.
Okay, good.
But the possibilities with biohacking are definitely exciting. And the best part is you don't need a lab coat or a degree in genetics to get started.
That's good to hear because I'll admit some of this stuff can feel a bit overwhelming. So where do we even begin? What exactly is biohacking?
At its heart, biohacking is about taking control of your own biology. It's about making small, strategic changes to your lifestyle that can lead to big improvements in your health, in your performance, your well-being.
Okay, so instead of just accepting the hand we're dealt, we're taking an active role in optimizing the system of us.
Exactly. Think of it like upgrading your phone's operating system. You
Oh,
do it to get better battery life, new features, smoother performance. Right. Biohacking is about applying that same concept to your body and mind.
I like that analogy. So instead of downloading the latest app, we're making tweaks to our diet, exercise, sleep, all those everyday things that kind of impact how we feel.
Precisely. And what's so fascinating is the sheer range of biohacking techniques out there.
Yeah?
Some are as simple as changing your eating window.
Right.
Others delve into the world of smart drugs and brainwave training.
Okay, see, now that's where it starts to feel a bit like I need a PhD.
Uh-huh.
But let's start with something a little more approachable, food.
Right.
Everyone's got to eat, right? So
Exact.
tell me about this whole nutritional biohacking thing.
Okay.
Is it just a fancy way of saying eat your vegetables?
It's definitely more than that, though. Eating your veggies is never a bad idea. Nutritional biohacking is about understanding how the food you consume directly impacts your biology on a cellular level.
Okay, so it's not just about what we eat, but how those foods are interacting with our bodies on a deeper level.
You got it. Take intermittent fasting, for example.
Okay, IF. I've heard of it, but to be honest, the thought of intentionally skipping meals makes my stomach growl a bit.
I get it. It seems counterintuitive. But there's a method to the madness. With intermittent fasting, you're cycling between periods of eating and fasting, say, like an 8-hour eating window and a 16-hour fast.
So it's more about when you eat, not necessarily what you eat.
In essence, yes. And the reason this can be so powerful is because it impacts something called insulin sensitivity.
Insulin sensitivity. All right, break that down for me. That sounds important.
It is. In simple terms, insulin is a hormone that regulates your blood sugar levels. When you eat, especially carbohydrates, your body releases insulin to help your cells absorb the glucose from your bloodstream for energy. But if you're constantly snacking or eating throughout the day, your body is constantly producing insulin.
And too much of anything isn't good.
Exactly. Over time, your cells can become less responsive to insulin, leading to a condition called insulin resistance, which is a precursor to type 2 diabetes.
Ah, okay, now it's all starting to click. So by strategically timing our meals and giving our bodies a break from digesting, we're essentially helping our cells stay more sensitive to insulin.
You got it. And that translates to more stable energy levels throughout the day, better blood sugar control, and a reduced risk of developing those insulin-related health issues down the line.
So less of those energy crashes and cravings. That alone sounds like a win in my book. What other tricks does nutritional biohacking have up its sleeve? Because you mentioned something about a high-fat diet. Now, that's got to be a head-scratcher for most people.
Ah, yes, the ketogenic diet. You're right, it does seem counterintuitive. After all, we've been told for years that fat is the enemy.
Exactly. So how does loading up on butter and bacon actually help anything?
Well, the keto diet is all about drastically reducing your carbohydrate intake, and I'm talking drastically, while increasing your fat consumption. This forces your body to enter a metabolic state called ketosis.
Ketosis. Okay. That sounds a little intimidating. What's going on in my body when I'm in ketosis?
In simple terms, your body is switching its primary fuel source from glucose, which comes from carbohydrates, to ketones, which are produced from fat. So instead of running on carbs, your body starts running on fat.
So it's like flipping a metabolic switch, turning yourself into a fat-burning machine. Started to see the appeal here. But beyond weight loss, are there other benefits to being in this fat-burning mode?
Absolutely. Many people report feeling much more mentally clear and focused on a keto diet because their energy levels are far more stable. They don't experience those sugar highs and crashes that can leave you feeling foggy and drained.
Okay, stable energy levels and better focus. I can definitely get behind that. You know, it's funny how so many of these biohacking techniques seem to come back to improving our brain power and productivity.
It's all connected. Our physical and mental states are deeply intertwined. But speaking of things that are interconnected, let's move on from what we put in our bodies to how we actually move our bodies. Because exercise is another area where biohacking can make a huge difference.
All right, exercise biohacking. Now, this is a topic I can get behind. I'm all for maximize those workouts. So what kind of hacks are we talking about here? Give me the inside scoop.
One that's gained immense popularity, and for good reason, is high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. You've probably heard of it.
HIIT, yes. I've dabbled in it. It's all about short bursts of intense exercise, right?
Yeah.
Like sprinting for 30 seconds, then catching your breath and repeating.
Exactly. You're alternating between periods of pushing yourself to the max and short recovery periods.
Yeah.
And the beauty of HIT is that you can get an incredibly effective workout in a fraction of the time compared to, say, going for a long jog.
That's music to my ears. As much as I love the idea of working out for hours, who actually has time for that? So HIIT is perfect for us busy bees who want maximum results in minimal time.
Precisely. And the benefits go beyond just saving time. HII has been shown to boost your metabolism, torch calories, and improve cardiovascular health. It's a win-win.
Sign me up. Okay, so what other exercise hacks do you have up your sleeve?
All right, this next one might sound a little extreme to some, but hear me out. Cold exposure.
Cold exposure. You're talking about those ice baths I've seen athletes posting about on social media? The ones where they're submerged in freezing water with this look of grim determination on their faces.
That's the one. And while it might not sound like everyone's cup of tea, there's a growing body of evidence that cold therapy can be incredibly beneficial.
Okay, I'll bite. What are the benefits of willingly subjecting yourself to freezing temperatures? Aside from bragging rights, of course.
Well, for starters, cold exposure has been shown to reduce inflammation throughout the body. It can also speed up muscle recovery, which is why you see athletes using it.
So it's not just about looking tough. There's actual science behind it.
Absolutely. Cold exposure triggers a cascade of physiological responses in the body. It releases adrenaline, boosts circulation, and even triggers the release of endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects.
Okay, so it's a natural mood booster too. Maybe I need to rethink my aversion to the cold. But before I go fill my bathtub with ice, what about all the technology we're surrounded by? I'd imagine there's some pretty cool biohacking applications there too.
You're right. We can't talk about biohacking without diving into the world of wearables and other cutting-edge technology. They've become essential tools for anyone looking to optimize their performance.
Wearables, yes. I'm a data nerd, so I love the idea of tracking everything and using that information to fine-tune my routine. But we're talking about more than just tracking steps, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about sophisticated devices that monitor your heart rate variability, sleep patterns, activity levels, even your stress levels throughout the day.
So it's like having a mini coach on your wrist, giving you real-time feedback and insights into how your body is responding to everything you're doing.
Exactly. They can tell you if you're pushing too hard, not enough, if you're not recovering properly, even if you need to prioritize sleep. It takes the guesswork out of optimizing your health and performance.
Data-driven living at its finest. But, all this talk of wearables and tracking makes me wonder, where does biohacking go from here? I mean, are we talking about implanting chips in our brains next? Because I've heard whispers about some pretty futuristic stuff.
Well, some people are taking biohacking to that level, but it's definitely not mainstream yet.
Okay, good to know. I don't need to schedule a microchip implant just yet. But speaking of pushing boundaries, what about this whole world of cognitive biohacking? I feel like that's where things get really interesting and maybe a little intimidating.
It's definitely a fascinating realm. Cognitive biohacking is all about optimizing brain function, sharpening your focus, boosting your memory, enhancing your creativity. And it taps into a variety of methods, from ancient practices to cutting-edge technology.
All right, so give me the rundown. Where do we even begin if we want to hack our brains?
Well, one area that often comes to mind is nootropics.
Nootropics. I've heard that term thrown around. Are those the smart drugs everyone's whispering about?
Yeah.
Spill the tea.
They are. Nootropics encompass a wide range of substances, some natural, some synthetic, that can enhance cognitive function in various ways.
Okay, so instead of just grabbing another cup of coffee when I hit that afternoon slump, I could be strategically choosing nootropics to fine-tune my brain power. I'm intrigued.
Exactly. For example, you mentioned caffeine, a classic nootropic. But did you know combining it with L-theanine, an amino acid found in green tea, can create a synergistic effect that promotes calm focus without the jitters?
Wow, I had no idea. See, this is what I love about biohacking. It's like unlocking these hidden levels of optimization in everyday life.
Precisely. Now, not everyone is comfortable experimenting with supplements, even natural ones, and that's perfectly fine. Cognitive biohacking also encompasses practices that have been around for centuries, like meditation.
Meditation.
Oh,
Okay, I'll admit that one always felt a bit too woo-woo for
yeah.
me. How does sitting in silence actually translate to a better brain?
It might seem passive, but meditation is actually an active form of brain training. Regular practice has been shown to increase gray matter in the hippocampus, the area of the brain responsible for learning and memory.
Wow, so I'm not just chilling out, I'm literally changing the structure of my brain.
You got it. It also strengthens the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for focus, decision-making, emotional regulation.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light. Now, for those of us who are a bit tech-minded, are there any high-tech ways to train our brains?
Absolutely. One fascinating avenue is neurofeedback.
Neurofeedback, that sounds intense. Break it down for me. What's the gist?
Essentially, it involves hooking yourself up to an EEG, which measures your brainwave activity. Then you get real-time feedback on what your brain is doing. The cool part is, with practice, you can actually learn to consciously influence those brainwaves.
So instead of bicep curls, we're doing brainwave curls.
It's a great analogy. Let's say you struggle with focus. Neurofeedback can train your brain to achieve and maintain the brainwave patterns associated with deep concentration.
That's mind-blowing. It's like taking control of the control center itself. But this brings up a bigger question. If we can already hack our brains with technology like this, where does it end? I mean, we've touched on all these incredible biohacking techniques, food, exercise, tech, but what about the most fundamental aspect of who we are? Our genes.
That's the million-dollar question, and it leads us to the frontier of biohacking. Genetic biohacking. We're talking about the ability to directly alter our DNA.
Okay, now we're venturing into sci-fi territory. What does genetic biohacking actually look like?
One groundbreaking technology is CRISPR. It acts like a pair of molecular scissors, allowing scientists to make incredibly precise edits to DNA sequences.
So instead of just optimizing our lifestyles, we could potentially correct genetic flaws, enhance our predispositions. The possibilities seem endless. A little daunting, to be honest.
Absolutely. Genetic biohacking holds immense promise, but it also raises profound ethical questions. It's a field that demands careful consideration as it continues to evolve.
For sure. It's a lot to wrap our heads around. So as we reach the end of our biohacking deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important thing to remember is that biohacking is a journey, a very personal one. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. The key is to start exploring, experimenting, and finding what works best for you, your body, your goals, your values.
I love that. It's about becoming the CEO of your own biology. So, to our listeners out there, if you could upgrade one aspect of your health, your performance, or your well-being, what would it be? And what's one small step you can take today to start that journey? We'll leave you with that thought. Until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.